Filipinos get a chance to chart their future by electing leaders to more than 18,000 positions, including the president. The Filipino votes on this big day. More than 65 million voters making their voices heard by one shade on the ballot and making a stand for a better life emerging from the health and economic crisis and against corruption, crime, illegal drugs, and many more. On this day that will go down in history, the future of the country is at stake. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation, The Filipino Votes 2022.
Filipino voters continue to troop to polling places today. Up for grabs are the presidency, vice presidency, 12 Senate seats, 316 House seats, including 63 party lists and about 18,000 local positions. Thousands of police and military personnel have been deployed to ensure peaceful and organized elections. Our news teams are in full force covering the candidates and the electoral process. Our AC Nichols is in PPCRV's command center in UST Manila. Senior correspondent Anjo Alimario is in Camarines Sur for Lenny Robredo. Melissa Lopez stands by at the PICC, while George Cahiles is monitoring election activities in Cavite. We also have Tristan Nodalo in Quezon City. Our Amer Santos is also in UST Manila. Rex Remigio will give updates from the Uniteam campaign in Mandaluyong. Paulo Barcelon is in Manila for Isko Moreno. Our senior correspondent David Santos is in Davao to cover the Duterte family. In Cebu, we have Caroline Bonquin. In Sarangani, Zian Arcangel. In Rizal Province, Chrissy de Matulac is covering Leody de Guzman. Stanley Gajete is in Manila. Senior correspondent Lois Calderon in Ilocos Norte to cover Bongbong Marcos's family, and Paige Javier in Laguna. Presidential candidate Senator Ping Lacson voted today in his hometown in Cavite. George Cahiles joins us from there. George, what do you have for us?
Well, Pinky, here at Bayan Luma 1 Elementary School, the number of voters here have gone down by lunchtime as compared to the number of people here this morning. And also, earlier there was also some commotion in one of the precincts here among voters and members of the Board of Election Inspectors. In this precinct located on the second floor, the voting was temporarily stopped for around 30 minutes when the BEI chairman accompanied at least 4 PWD voters in one of the precincts at the ground floor. Some irate voters are demanding that they should be allowed inside to shade their ballots so that the process will be faster. Now, Cavite Provincial Board of Canvasser Chairman, Attorney Joseph Enaje, says they are projecting that the voter turnout in the province will reach around 80%, and that's how interested and invested Caviteños are in these elections, he said. So far, they have received dozens of issues concerning the vote counting machines, but they were immediately fixed. Only 5 were found effective and were replaced immediately. Back to you.
George Cahiles reporting to us from Cavite. From Luzon, let's go to the Visayas. Our stringer Bridget Dejon is reporting live from Ormoc, Leyte. Bridget, what do you have for us?
Yes, Pinky, good afternoon. So Ormoc City Mayor Richard Gomez, along with wife, Congresswoman Lucy Torres Gomez, and daughter Juliana Gomez, have casted their vote today, 3:15 p.m. here at Canajing Elementary School, Ormoc City. So we have witnessed the politicians went directly to their respective precincts, 0084A and 0084B. After they voted, media representatives had a small interview for both running candidates before leaving the location. So here in the area, Pinky, volunteers and watchers are very organized with their voting procedure. While voters wait for the long queue, the schools offer chairs for them to sit while they wait outside of the precincts where they will be voting. It's a peaceful yet organized procedure here and no reported incidents so far. Still, however, following the health protocols like social distancing and wearing of masks and temperature check upon arriving at the area. Meanwhile, opposing candidate and running mayor Engineer Ondo Codilla have already casted his vote along with his family earlier this morning around 10 a.m. at Cogon Central School, while former COMELEC Commissioner Attorney Goyo Larrazabal, who is battling against a spot in Congress with Mayor Richard Gomez, have voted early this morning at 7 a.m. in Ormoc City Central School. 2,000 plus voters are expected to vote in the area, and the voting ends at 7 p.m. tonight. Further, Commission on Election will start counting the votes at 8 p.m. tonight. Updates will follow.
Thanks a lot, Stringer. Bridget Dehon there reporting. Let's now go to Davao. We have the latest on the elections there from Stringer Pearl Gahonera. Pearl.
Pinky, the Davao City Police Office recorded 0 election-related incident in the city halfway through the election day. DCPO Director Police Colonel Roberto Lupas said that the atmosphere in Davao City is generally peaceful as the entire forces of the city police were fully utilized to ensure the safe conduct of the election. At least 2,100 police personnel were deployed in the entire city to maintain peace and order and to secure the ballots as well. Meanwhile, as the Davao region was greeted with heavy rainfalls on Monday morning, some parts of the municipality of Compostela and Moncayo in Davao de Oro experienced landslide and flooding. In Barangay Babag in Moncayo, Davao de Oro, residents crossed the knee-level flood on their way to their polling precincts as the Agusan River located beside the Babag main road overflowed. Despite the heavy current, voters crossed the road carrying their motorcycles just to exercise their right to vote. In Compostela, Davao de Oro, one died while another was reportedly injured after the landslide incident in Barangay Ngan, municipality of Compostela. The casualty was identified as Ronela Magbasa. She was with her husband Norberto when the incident took place. Norberto sustained injuries and is currently undergoing immediate treatment. In general, the conduct of election in Davao de Oro remains peaceful as no election-related incident was recorded. Reporting for CNN Philippines, Pearl Gahonera, Davao de Oro.
Thanks a lot, Pearl Gahonera. The Ateneo School of Government says areas where political dynasties thrive often suffer from underdevelopment and poverty. The school's dean, Ronald Mendoza, explains political dynasties or where there are several family members holding government positions at the same time lead to weaker checks and balances, corruption, and even violence. Mendoza says that based on the 2019 national elections, data show that 80% of governors, 67% of congressmen, and 53% of mayors are from fat dynasties. Among the provinces, Maguindanao had the most officials belonging to a dynasty, eating up more than 50% of political posts. He urges the voting public to choose the most capable and credible candidates who will serve the country. And joining us now via Zoom is the University of the Philippines College of Public Administration and Governance, Professor Reginald Ugadan. Professor Ugadan, it's good to have you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Vicky, for this opportunity.
Okay, let's just first talk about your assessment on the conduct of today's election.
Yeah, thank you for that question. You know, it's too early for us to say or to give an evaluation of the current election. But, you know, I would like to say, of course, that this election is a historic election for our new voters. It's a historic election because, you know, we will be electing a new president or a new set of national officials that will be facing or that will be tackling the current and future challenges of the country, as well as I can say that this election will also put to test our current automated election system. I would like to point out also that I was monitoring since this morning the conduct of the election. And if, as an academic, I would say, of course, the evaluation will always look into different indicators. And one of the indicators there that could possibly be should be should be checked is into the participation, right? The participation, as I can see here, um, just like the previous elections, on the AES, we still encounter issues on the VCM, a defective or not working machines for or SD cards that are not working well. I think this is something that we have to look at. That may possibly again put the AES or our election on the question, of course, on the integrity of the election. One thing that I would like also to point out, maybe as early as now, is that the COMELEC, of course, I would like to commend them for this preparation. But as you can see it now, there are long lines out in the precinct, in the polling places. People are having their lines there for almost 2 hours. Some also have reached 4 hours, right, in the on those lines. But of course, now after having those lines, you can just cast your votes. But of course, those are some of the indicators that we are looking at on trying to assess. No? But also there are other indicators that maybe after the election we could possibly give more detailed and also if I may say, an intelligent assessment of the election.
Right.
But,
Everything, Professor, right now is initial. And yung pong sinasabi ninyo is what we are seeing. There are areas that don't seem to have problems, yet meron pong mga lugar na mahaba yung linya, 2 hours bago makaboto. Meron pong nagagalit, naiinis dahil hindi gumagana yung voting counting machines after it being tested and sealed prior to today's election, di ho ba? But although everything is very initial, right now, the COMELEC seems to say that it's a small percentage of, for example, VCMs, voting counting machines or vote counting machines bogging down compared to the number in totality, itong mga vote counting machines at about 106,000. Maybe we can or COMELEC can argue on that. Ilan lang naman itong mga issues, but we've been monitoring since this morning that there's almost 2,000 VCMs already, defective VCMs that are yet to, of course, to address. There's also a defective VCM that's 6:30, as early as 6:30 in the morning. Marami ng tao, and after that, there's already, they found out that it's really defective, but it was not resolved until 10 o'clock in the morning. So that's really something that COMELEC have to look at after this election. Pinky, I would like also to point out one thing that maybe that could possibly be looked at, or a factor, an indicator that we have to look at in this election, is the total or the overall integrity of the election. Of course, we're not saying that it's a problematic election, but we are still hearing issues of vote buying. That's a very old issue already in our election system. Even in an AES or an automated election system, we've been hearing a lot of issues like this vote buying. Even of course napaka garapalan talaga na ginagawa yung pagbibigay ng pera. Professor, would you say that how would you assess how COMELEC is dealing with these alleged vote buying issues? Are they aggressive enough?
For me, I see it. Of course, the COMELEC was able to set up a reporting system, but I think they're not aggressive enough. If I may say, they're not aggressive enough to really bring these people or these vote buyers. Either, of course, either you are a politician or you are an ordinary citizen that's really engaging into that illegal activity that may put the election, the integrity or the credibility of the election in question. You can go back to 2019 elections, right? There are issues of vote buying. Questions that could possibly give us a point of questioning, right, the integrity of the election. But there are no more. Last cases still are filed in court or even of course the people that would like really to file cases still, no, yung takot pa rin, no? Na nasa kanila pa rin yung takot ng pagbabalita or to stand in court, no. I know of course COMELEC is really into that someone or somebody should really stand in court and should really play as a witness to that kind of activity.
Okay, let's talk about other issues. I want to get your thoughts on the maybe month and the weeks leading up to today in terms of the strategy of presidential and vice presidential candidates. For example, I had Edwin Nasherda and Nicole Curata a while ago, and they were saying one thing that was very prominent right now is in the advent of social media and, of course, ads on television, nabuhay daw ulit yung tinatawag na house-to-house campaigning.
I think this is one thing, no, na pwede natin tignan sa election na ito, no. Kakaiba, no, if I may, it's really unique and it's really something that we can always go back to look at what might be the future of elections in the country. People are really aware now. I mean, the citizen engagement or citizen participation in this election, if I may say, is very high. I think they are really betting to a candidate that they really believe could really address these issues of corruption, or could really bring a government that is really emphasizing or really that could possibly manifest good governance of transparency, accountability, and people are really going down. Right? So if you can see lahat, madaming mga artista, mga ordinaryong mga mamamayan, are going down to the different communities and try to convince people or try to educate people on what kind of leader should we really be electing in this election. That is something that I can say, right? Isang combination nito, no, na nakikita natin that could possibly be the future of elections. From social media, I mean, very active. I mean, social media will be playing a role. And it's playing a role actually in this election, and it's actually it was actually a way in mobilizing people to go down, right, or to push for their candidates. I mean, for people to be educated and for people to be transformed from a certain perspective of a leader to a perspective of a leader that they really want to manage or to lead the country.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about programs or policies of presidential candidates that may have been given less importance. You think, which topics would these be, or not given enough solutions to pressing problems? What issues do you think have been somehow ignored that need the attention of government?
For me, I would really point out, right, that the issue of our farmers have been ignored. It's a very important issue that that have been ignored. I mean, maybe the government, and of course, I would like to point out this is how I see how the government was able to deal with different issues in the society. And I think there were more because of this reactive nature or the reactive stance, right, of Philippine government into different issues. They failed to look at important issues that have to be addressed. And I would like to point out that agriculture has been left behind. Mm-hmm. Our farmers have been left behind. That's why we are encountering now, or we're experiencing issues of napakamahal na mga bilihin. And then also, the issue of rice. Now, the issue of our farmers. Speaking, I would like to say, of course, I'm a farmer. My family is a farmer that have been experiencing that, yung napakamahal na presyo ng mga farm inputs, and when you are going to sell this, napaka binabarat ito ng mga traders, and I think that kind of issue.
Yeah. It needs to be highlighted. No, the plight of the farmers definitely need to be highlighted. I did hear a number of presidential candidates who actually have, and vice presidential candidates who have a policy or program rather for our farmers. Sa hirap po ng dinadanas nila ay napakaliit talaga ng kanilang mga yung kanilang income. Sabi mo nga, ano ba ginamit niyo pong salita? Nababarat, yun ba ho sinabi ninyo? Nababarat pa nga ang ating mga magsasaka. Professor, okay, thank you so much for your time. And of course, the polls are still open until 7 p.m. We will continue our coverage. Professor Ugadan, maraming salamat po sa inyo. We will be right back after a quick break. Keep it here on CNN Philippines News You Can Trust. Of the Filipino Votes 2022. There are over 65 million registered voters for today's election. Almost 1.7 million are registered overseas voters. Up to 65.8 million registered voters will troop to public schools and other voting centers today, May 9th. What do you need to bring para po sa pupunta pa rin sa mga presinto? What should you wear? Our Melissa Lopez tells us the do's and don'ts on Election Day.
The Commission on Elections says preparations to vote on May 9th start at home. Commissioners say voters should do their research early and make a list of chosen candidates to speed up the voting process. Although smartphones are allowed inside the precinct, it's best to write down the names of candidates on a piece of paper. Sample ballots are also allowed. If possible, you should visit the COMELEC's Precinct Finder page to know where you are voting. You should also write down the precinct number. Now, what should you wear? Commissioner George Garcia says any color is accepted, even those identified with the campaigns. But do not wear shirts or even masks bearing the names or faces of candidates to the voting center.
Mas maganda po wag na lang pong magsusuot ng ganon. Pero yung kulay, it doesn't really matter. Basta dapat may damit. Kaysa naman yung walang damit, sure, hindi makakapasok. Bawal na po ang pangangampanya sa Mayo 9. Simula po nga ng Mayo 8, bawal na po ang campaigning.
You may head to the precinct anytime from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. You should also wear a face mask. An ID is not required, but the poll body says it's good to have one ready in case someone questions your identity. At the precinct, make sure to use the COMELEC's official marking pen when shading the ballot. Do not use a regular pen as its pointy edge might pierce through the ballot and invalidate your vote. COMELEC's stern reminder, do not take photos or selfies with your ballot and of the voter's receipt. Pack some patience as lines could be long. Precincts can only accommodate up to 10 voters at a time for social distancing.
Sa amin pong estima, kapag po kayo ay may dala po kayong kodigo, mga 3 to 5 minutes lang po tapos kayo sa pagboto. Mas maganda po mapadali natin din yung pagboto natin at mapadali rin yung pag-alis natin sa polling place dahil nga sa banta ng COVID-19.
Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
A poll watchdog backed by the Catholic Church says it expects electronic results of the elections to start coming in for their parallel, partial, and unofficial count an hour after polling precincts close at 7 p.m. The Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting says that within 24 hours, election winners will likely be known. PPCRV Chairman Emeritus Tita De Villa insists they do not favor any candidate. The group has 500,000 volunteers deployed to 100,000 clustered precincts. As to reports of malfunctioning of some voting counting machines, this is what the poll watchdog is doing.
In one area, the VCM failed. It did work for a few minutes, but then it suffered a breakdown. So the voters were told to accomplish their ballots but leave them already with the electoral board. our legal counsel said, and COMELEC said also, pwede yon. Pwede nilang iwan, pero kung gusto nilang intayin at sila mag-insert, pwede rin. Ngayon, ang ina-alert sa mga poll watchers ng PPCRB, doon sa mga nag-iwan, those who left their accomplished ballots with the Electoral Board, our PPCRB poll watcher should see to it that when the vote counting machine is fixed, that these ballots are inserted inside the VCM.
It's been hours since voting began. We asked netizens how was their voting experience. We have again our Menshu, Makapagal Menshu. Anong sabi nila?
Nako, Pinky, mukhang medyo maraming nahirapan or nagka-experience ng aberya sa kanilang voting experience today. Tulad na lang nito, si Dennis nagkwento sa Facebook, 2 hours daw siyang nakapila pero hindi daw siya mapapagod para sa bayan. Ito naman from Cooks, Punsalan, sinasabi niya, naku, napakasama ng experience niya. Grabe, 3 precincts ang sira ang VCM. Sa barangay Matandang Balara sa Quezon City, again, 3 yung nasirang vote counting machines as early as 7 o'clock this morning. Myra May tells us on Facebook, the voting process in her precinct in Milanilla, Cebu was slightly delayed because the ballots provided by the COMELEC to their precinct were mixed with ballots from Tagbilaran, Bohol. Si Rodelia Abraham Sohor naman, meron din siyang kwento na sinasabi that she was actually, mas natuwa daw siya na maraming tumulong sa asawa niyang naka-wheelchair. Sabi niya, voting was speedy and very smooth. Doon daw ito sa Kabili Village Precinct sa Iligan City. So mukhang may mangilan din na hindi nahirapan sa kanilang pagboto ngayon. Si Tony De Leon Piamonte said that ganun din, 15 minutes lang yung proseso para sa kanya. She arrived early and was first in line, done in 15 minutes. Now, Ray Nash here, kinuwento niya na first time daw niya to vote as a senior citizen. The whole process went very smoothly and it took less than 5 minutes. So there you go. That is it from our netizens right now. Pinky, back to you.
Thanks a lot, Menshu. Keep it here on CNN Philippines as we deliver in-depth coverage of the national and local elections today.
Love is all about time. Di minamadali. You're watching a CNN Philippines special presentation, the Filipino Votes 2022. Quezon City is the most vote-rich area in Metro Manila. Our Tristan Odalo is covering the elections there. Tristan, how's it going?
Pinky, unmindful of the scorching heat, long lines, and possible hours of waiting, voters trooped to over 170 polling centers in Quezon City. But like in many other areas, delays were also experienced due to defective vote counting machines or VCMs. Earlier, we were at the Commonwealth Elementary School, one of the biggest polling centers in the city with over 30,000 registered voters. Some of the voters there said that they were told to leave their ballots while the VCM is being fixed. Based on our monitoring, defective VCMs in the city have also been recorded at Culiat Elementary School, Tandang Sora Elementary School, Corazon Aquino, Pasong Tamo, Payatas, Teachers Village, and Diliman voting centers, among others. The poll body insists voters have two options. When the VCM is not working, first wait until it's repaired or leave the ballots under the custody of the Electoral Board. But some voters that we were able to speak to said that they are not confident on the second option.
So wala pong reason para huminto ang botohan, magka-issue man po sa VCM.
We have watchers in place at doon po naman sa hindi makapag-feed ng balota, meron po tayong watchers. Nandiyan po ang PPCRV, wag po kayong matakot.
Pinky, we are here at the Christ the King Seminary Voting Center wherein some 2,000 voters are expected to cast their votes here. So far, so good according to election officials. But earlier, one vote counting machine malfunctioned that caused some delays in the voting process. Back to you.
Any other concerns, Tristan, apart from glitches in VCMs like we mentioned a while ago? Quezon City has 1.4 million registered voters.
One of the concerns that were raised by the voters came from the group of senior citizens. Earlier at the Commonwealth Elementary School, some of them said that their precincts are not accessible to them because yung iba nga nakita natin nasa ika-4 na napalapag, so hirap na hirap silang akyatin yung kanilang mga presinto. Also, some voters complained about not being able to vote because their names are not on the official ballot list, but election officials here say that it's up to the COMELEC to decide and they cannot do anything about it if they're not on the official list. Back to you.
Pero hindi ba, Tristan, dapat especially kapag ang pinakamadali dapat ay yung mga pagbotohan, yung mga PWD at yung mga senior citizens. So, gaya nung sinabi mo kanina, tama ba yung rinig ko, yung mga senior citizens had to go to the 4th floor para makapagboto?
Yes, Pinky. Sila kasi kanina, libaw sa Commonwealth Elementary School, sila yung mga nasa unahan ng pila. Pagkatapos, nung nakita na nila yung mga presinto nila, na doon pa sa ika-4 na palapag nung paaralan. So yung iba talaga hirap na hirap umakyat. Although, meron namang pinunuvide din na emergency assistance areas para sa mga PWD at para sa mga senior citizen. Ang problema lang, hindi doon yung vote counting machine. So ang mangyayari, they can vote there, pero ang magdadala ng mga balota nila ay yung election official at hindi mismo yung mga botante. So isa yun din sa mga concern on whether mas gusto ba nilang umakyat sa taas or maghintay dun sa emergency assistance area.
Marami siguro sa kanila ayaw yun dahil gusto nila sila magpasok ng kanilang balota, di ba?
Oo, Pinky, yun. Mas gusto nilang sila nga.
Okay, maraming salamat sa iyo. Thank you, Tristan Nadalo, reporting to us from Quezon City. Let's go back to the Visayas. Our stringer Wilmark Amazonas covering the elections there. Wilmark, what's the latest?
Yeah.
Wilmark, go ahead.
Yes, Pinky. At least 2 vote counting machine malfunctioned at the Kapangian Central School here in Tacloban. Nita Hungko, Deputy Election Officer, said that they immediately informed the regional office of the Commission on Election about it. And voters what to do after experiencing the problem. One is to wait for the replacement VCM so they can personally feed the ballot to the machine. The second option is to leave it and allow the members of the Electoral Board to feed the ballot to the machine for them. Despite the problem on VCM, the officer said that voting at the said school has gone smoothly. Voters have no complaint except those who had difficulty looking for their voting percent. Included in the affected voter due to VCM malfunction was Vice Mayor Jerry Yaucasin, who is challenging Mayor Alfred Romualdez. Yaucasin was joined by his family in voting at their polling percent. When they arrived at the scanner of the VCM was not working. They waited for about 5 minutes before they were able to cast their vote. About 70% of the total population of voters in Kapangian Central School has already cast their votes. The school covers 19%, which includes certain villages within the city proper. There are more than 6,000 registered voters casting votes in the school. The regional office of the Commission on Election confirmed the several VCM glitches encountered. However, they were not able to provide the list of areas where the glitches happened because they are still collecting reports. Back to you, Pinky.
Okay, maraming salamat sa iyo, Wilmark Amazona, reporting to us there. We are showing you live shots from Davao City, where President Rodrigo Duterte has arrived. If I'm not mistaken, this is the Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School. Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School. So we've been reporting a while ago on the presidential candidates who have cast their votes. Yung isa po, yung Pangulo natin, ay marami na rin po naghihintay kung kailan siya boboto, and that is going to happen right now. The president over there in Davao City again at Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School. Of course, pinagkakaguluhan po siya ng kanyang mga kababayan dyan sa Davao, and we should expect him to vote anytime now. Who the president will be voting, definitely that's something we don't know for president, because one thing that we are sure of is that the president said he is not endorsing any presidential candidate. A number of candidates have been wanting or waiting for President Duterte to endorse them. But as mentioned by the president in one of his last talk to the people, wala po siyang i-endorso. Sabi pa nga niya, wala akong i-endorso hanggang sa Disyembre. But for Vice President, obviously, the President has endorsed his daughter, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte. So again, the President there, arriving at the Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School to cast his vote. Our senior correspondent, of course, David Santos, is also there monitoring the events. I believe this would be the same. Is this the same school kung saan bumoto si Vice Presidential candidate Sara Duterte? So yung kanya pong anak ay bumoto kanina umaga at nagbigay ng panayam sa media. I do remember some parts of Vice Presidential candidate Sara Duterte during her interview. Sabi niya, she will remain loyal to BBM. Isa po yun sa kanyang mga sinabi. So maaga po siyang bumoto, and later in the afternoon now, almost 5 p.m. dumating naman po si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. So we will get more information on, ayan, papasok na po siya sa classroom para bumoto, pero patpanay ang kanyang kaway sa mga tao sa paligid na natutuwang nakita po si Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Okay, so he is being assisted. Is it the precinct? 12458. 12458. Tinutulungan na po siya, is being assisted, of course, ng ilang mga guro dyan para sa kanyang pagboto. Alright, so at this point, bibigay na po yung balota sa kanya at ipinapaliwanag kung anong dapat gawin. Certainly, the president already knows what to do, but just like with others and other voters, yan naman po yung SOP o protocol sa mga botante, at upo na po siya para nga bumoto. And again, live shots at the Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School, where the president has arrived, President Rodrigo Duterte, to vote today for the May 9 elections. As mentioned a while ago, the president already, of course, endorsed his daughter, Davao City and Vice Presidential candidate Sara Duterte, but he had stressed that he was not going to endorse any candidate for president. Now, anong ibig sabihin nun? He will not endorse anyone. The question remains, will he vote for someone for president? Will he vote for a presidential candidate? Of course, that will be up to the president. So we're still joined by sociologist Nicole Curato. Nicole, so there you have it, the president now voting. Gaya na sabi ko kanina, obvious naman sino yung kanyang vice presidential candidate. But I do remember him saying, because there were a number of candidates who have been wanting the president to endorse them. Kasi para sa kanila, malaking tulong pa rin ang pag-endorso ni Pangulong Duterte sa kanilang kandidatura. But remember, he said that he's not endorsing any candidate. He even went as far as saying, I'm not going to endorse any candidate until December.
Yeah, that's quite peculiar, isn't it? Well, it's President Duterte. We're used to him by now. But I can imagine why many candidates want to get his endorsement, because I think based on actually on the study I quoted a while ago, how people view President Duterte is also a predictor on how they will vote in this election. So I think the influence of the president is still very much present.
Absolutely. Because even if I don't know if that would automatically translate into votes, but looking at his trust ratings, mataas pa rin eh. Di ba patuloy naman na mataas yung trust ratings ni Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. And even if, you were reaching actually the last year of your term, di ba tinatawag ka na ngang lame duck president, di ba? But in terms of trust and performance rating, he was still scoring quite high or good.
Yes. Actually, I was trying to figure this out when I was doing my own research, this time naman in Barangay Payatas in Quezon City. So I was asking our research participants how long or how much patience will they have for the next president? How long will they wait for the reforms that their candidate promised? And you know what they said? They said 6 years. Kasi binoto namin sila ng 6 years. So hihintayin namin siyang mag-deliver ng promise until 6 years. And I think that also applies to President Duterte. The Filipinos are very patient and understanding in terms of how fast a president can deliver on his promise, even though President Duterte said 3 to 6 months.
Right, his campaign promise was 3 to 6 months.
To be fair, he did deliver on his campaign promise, which is it will be bloody. And Pinky, it has been bloody.
But 3 to 6 months, and you have a president also who admitted time and time again that nagkamali ako. My assessment of the drug war was very different from how I had thought of it when I was Davao City Mayor, hindi ba? That's why I remember at one point he said that he was going to extend this. And then at a certain point, sabi niya, hindi din talaga ito masosolve even until the end of his term. So that problem will continue to persist and be upon us.
Yes, and I think I just wonder, and this is a speculation on my part, this is not a learned observation, I wonder how this impacts candidates who are mayors, who claim to replicate what they did in their own cities to the rest of the country. And obviously now I'm thinking about Mayor Isko Moreno.
because his promise was to replicate what he did in Manila and replicate it to the entire country. And then you have this incredibly popular president admitting that his decades of service in Davao City, that's nothing compared to when you start ruling the nation.
When
so
he
baka
became
yung
president.
ganong logic na I'm a good mayor, I can be a good president, maybe it will not work anymore.
Okay. Let's talk to our senior correspondent, David Santos. He's on the line right now. David.
Yes, Pinky, kakapasok lang ni President Duterte sa kanyang polling percent dito sa Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School dito sa Davao City para to cast his vote. I think he's inside his polling percent for about 10 minutes now. He made his way to his designated polling center. But before that, pagbaba niya sa kanyang presidential car, lumapit muna sa mga tao, medyo nagkumahog yung kanyang mga security. I just want to point out that Pinky, kasi medyo mahigpit, kasi remember we are still in a pandemic, so compared yung mga previous elections nung bumoto si Presidente, medyo mas dumoble yung security na kailangang i-implement ng PSG, to ensure his safety as well as his security. So medyo nagulat lang kami kanina na pagkababa niya ng kotse ay dumiretso sa mga tao, nakipagkawayan for a few moments, and then saka dumiretso sa kanyang presinto. As we can see now, nasa presinto pa rin siya ng kanyang designated precinct. Ito yung 1245A clustered precinct na ito rin yung the same polling precinct kung saan bumoto earlier today ang kanyang anak at Davao City Mayor at Vice Presidential contender na si Sara Duterte. Sa ngayon, inaantay natin ang possibility na magbibigay pa siya ng statement or mag-grant ng media interview after casting his vote. So far, aside from the PSG personnel na nakikita natin nakapalibot or at least nakabantay sa labas ng polling precinct kung saan bumoboto ngayon ang Pangulo, may ilang personalities na kikita tayo dyan, gaya ng PSG commander na si Brigadier General Randy Cabangbang, gayon din si Asek Bam Principe na isa sa mga closest na tauhan ni Pangulong Duterte. Way back, nung time pa, nung mayor pa siya sa City Hall and now working with him in Malacanang. Sa ngayon, Pinky, inaantabayanan nga natin yung possibility na magbibigay siya ng pahayag. The President has been here in Davao City since, I think, Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. He attended the meeting, the avance of his son, Baste Duterte, who's running for mayor. It was also an event na inattend din ni Sara Duterte, but hindi sila nagkasama in that particular event. Hindi rin ito inattend ng kanyang isa pang anak na si Congressman Paulo Duterte, who is seeking re-election as Congressman of 1st District of Davao City.
Oo, si Basten, di ba, David, pinalitan niya yung kanyang kapatid when Sara Duterte decided to run to gun for the vice presidency. Just going back, the Sara Duterte was going to run for re-election. And then, nag-file siya ng kanyang certificate of candidacy. And then, at some point, nag-withdraw siya. Tama, no? And then, nag-file siya for vice presidency. And then, si Baste ang nag-take over kay Sara Duterte, natatakbo bilang mayor.
Tama ka, Pinky. He trace back, may atras tayo ng konti. I-recall, months, weeks before nung filing ng COCs, Sara Duterte was saying na she could seek a national post if hindi tatakbo si President Duterte. If you recall, back then, may mga ugong-ugong na maaring tumakbo siyang vice president. So alam mo yun, parang atras sa bante, back and forth silang dalawa kung sino ba talaga sa kanilang dalawa ang tatakbo. It kept the public as Filipinos speculating on their plans, So eventually, until the last minute, Sara Duterte made the decision to run for vice president at magiging running mate sa ni Bongbong Marcos. No? Parang it's reminiscent of how his father also carried out his decision to run in 2016 na last minute din. So, yun, no? Tama ka. And then, Baste eventually was supposed to be running for re-election kasi Sara had filed initially her candidacy for mayor of Davao. Pero yun, dahil nga nag-file na for VP si Sara, kinailangan din i-withdraw ni Baste yung kanyang candidacy for vice mayor of Davao.
David, we're showing live pictures now of the president. He just finished voting. Kakatayo lang niya sa upuan at pinapakita na sa election officer yung folder, no? Siyempre, nakapasok pa sa folder yung kanyang balota. Hinihintay na lang na ipasok sa vote counting machine. Ayan na. Actually, that's happening as we speak. So, I was trying to see. Napasok na yung no? Ayun. So, successfully accepted by the vote counting machine. At ang hihintayin natin ngayon ay yung paglabas nung kanyang boto, yung resibo, kumbaga, nung kanyang boto to check if indeed it is accurate doon sa kanyang naging pag-shade sa balota. The president now checking this and being told that he needs to, upon checking, kailangan niyang i-drop yun.
Pandemic time. Nakakalapit pa tayo mismo sa bintana nung polling precinct to actually witness.
Nakikita mo, David?
No, at this point, medyo silhouette na lang yung nakikita namin because we're sitting parang 2 meters away, no? Set by his security personnel. Although mas malapit pa nga yung, kasi alam mo, Pinky, kung saan sa boboto, may mga nakapila pang mga ibang botante rin, I think in his own precinct, no? So parang nag-giveaway muna sila for the president kasi, as an arrangement siguro with the school as well as nung election board sa kanyang designated precinct, nag-giveaway muna sila dahil considering marasadong elaborating security and safety protocols na pinapatupad. Pero marami pang mga botante ang nag-aabang sa labas ng kanyang presinto na boboto rin. So, can you just imagine, sila pa yung nasa harap ngayon, mas malapit. Siguro a meter away from where the president
ayan, David. Tapos na siyang bumoto, tapos na yung paglagay ng indelible ink at naglalakad na siya palabas ng presinto. Ito ngang 1245A ng Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School. Nakikipag-usap lang siya sa ilang mga individual doon sa loob ng presinto.
Tama ka dyan.
Tingnan natin kung magpapa-interview, David.
Oo nga eh. Kanina dyan din bumoto, no? Si Sara Duterte. At kanina medyo mas magilo kasi we were given the opportunity to come closer to the polling precinct. So mas malapitan natin na witness yung pagboto ni Mayor Sara Duterte. Pero in this case, syempre mas mahigpit dahil may mga PSG nakapalibot. Kaya palabas na sa naghihiyawan yung mga tao, nagsisigawan. Nung pagdating pa lang niya kanina, nagsisigawan sila, Duterte, Duterte. And of course, we understand, no? He's Davao City's favorite son. Ayan, parang he's showing to
Dinidisplay niya, oo.
Oo, pinapakita niya sa mga botante at naglabasan ng cellphone yung mga botante. Kinukunan siya ng pictures na pinapakita niya yung kanyang, nagsisigawan sila ng
Unya, ako ni ara sa Davao. So, basig civilian ako. Ug unsa may akong mahimo nimo, sama sa akong giingon ni adto pa pagsugod nako pagka-mayor. Ako, si Rodrigo Duterte, magpabilin inyong sulugon. Daghang salamat. Hoy, mga buang dili na ko kandidato. Salamat ha. Daghan kaayong salamat. Hoy, mga buang dili na ko kandidato. Salamat ha. Daghan kaayong salamat.
You know,
David, sorry, kakapasok mo lang. Go ahead.
Sorry, you will have to forgive me, for my limited understanding of the Visayan dialect. But basically, well, I'm from Mindanao, pero I speak Chavacano. But anyway, basically, inulit lang ni Presidente yung kanyang naging mensahe during the meeting de Avance noong last Friday ng kanyang anak na si Mayor Baste Duterte, standing for Mayor. Nagpasalamat siya sa mga taga Davao for, basically, sabi niya, bringing me, accompanying me to my journey to Malacanang. At nagpasalamat din siya sa, I don't know how to interpret it because I need to double check, pero parang nagpapasalamat siya sa mga botante na, from here sa Davao City na bumoto sa kanyang mga anak na tumatakbo sa mga different positions from Sara Duterte to Baste Duterte and to Paulo Duterte, and Paulo Duterte who's running for the first district representative ng Davao City. So basically, yun, inulit lang niya, and then he made a joke about when people were cheering him or were chanting his name. Sabi niya, mga buang, mga baliw, hindi ako ang kandidato. Sabi niya, that's the very typical of the president to make jokes whenever, especially when he delivers speeches in his hometown, which is Davao City. So we're just hoping na any moment now, he's just making his way to the designated area kung saan dapat magkakaroon media opportunity or opportunity for the journalists covering this event to ask some questions.
Let's see.
Medyo dagtap, ang dami pa rin tao kung saan mismo dapat tatayo ang Pangulo kasi I would just like to add also, Pinky, alam mo, mula umaga hanggang ngayon, hindi maubos-ubos yung mga botante dito sa Daniel Aguinaldo National High School. We've been reporting it throughout the day na, alam mo, medyo bumagal nga yung proseso compared to previous elections. Kaya that explains kung bakit at this point, ang dami pa rin mga botante nag-aantay, waiting for their turn to be able to cast their ballot sa 11 clustered precincts dito sa particular na polling place na ito. So, ayun, we're not sure kung at this point we're not getting any signal yet if magkakaroon pa ng opportunity si Pangulong Duterte to speak to the media.
Parang David, papasok na ng sasakyan unless may ibang lugar kayong posibleng puntahan. But just the same, antabayan na natin yan, David. We see the President already boarding his car. Indeed, if he will give some sort of, if he talks to the media in a bit, David Santos will be there to cover that for us. David, thank you so much for that report. And while we're showing you still live pictures after the President's vote, I just want to go back to Nicole. Nicole will have to go in a bit. Nicole, so, what I wanted to find out from you, the President has less than, 2 months after his 6-year term. How much of a comparison do you think? Whoever wins, will this next president be? Will this next president be always, you think, be compared to Rodrigo Duterte, to President Rodrigo Duterte?
I think that's inevitable. President Duterte is larger than life. But also, I think we also have to recognize that President Duterte also exemplifies continuity, despite him claiming to be the change candidate in 2016. The way he governed is also a product of continuity. He continued the projects of President Aquino. He continued For Peace, which lifted, I think, 6 million people out of poverty. So I think the core message I want to convey as well is that even if our president changes, some of these policies potentially will continue, and that's what a lot of people are also hoping to see. It's just that there's an expectation that more people will be reached by these policies.
Okay. Nicole Curato, again, as always, thank you so much for joining us in today's special coverage.
My
thank
pleasure.
you. And we will be back after a quick break. Stay tuned to CNN Philippines News You Can Trust.
Number of hours every 6 years, Filipinos get a chance to chart their future by electing leaders to more than 18,000 positions, including the president. The Filipino votes on this big day. More than 65 million voters making their voices heard by one shade on the ballot and making a stand for a better life emerging from the health and economic crisis and against corruption, crime, illegal drugs, and many more. On this day that will go down in history, the future of the country is at stake. This is a CNN Philippines special presentation, The Filipino Votes 2022.
Good afternoon, I'm Pinky Webb. Join me in the next few hours as we continue to give you live and in-depth coverage of this year's national and local elections. All 10 presidential candidates have cast their votes today. Despite some reports of defective vote counting machines, tens of millions of Filipinos trooped to polling precincts to choose their next set of leader. Stark differences between two polling centers. In Pasig, the fourth richest city in the country with more than 457,000 voters. In 2019, then neophyte Vico Sotto ended the Eusebio family's nearly three-decade rule in the city. He's now on a head-to-head battle against Vice Mayor Io Bernardo. Amor Santos joins us live for the details. Amor, go ahead.
Yes, Pinky, we're now here at the covered court in Valle Verde 5, Pasig City, where re-electionist Mayor Vico Sotto cast his vote this afternoon. Voters described the voting process as generally smooth, despite the long lines, the waiting time of more than or around 2 hours, and also a few minor glitches. It's a very different scenario this morning at Pasig Elementary School, a bigger polling place where voters turned restless. Some even shouted as it opened late.
We're expecting na pagdating ng alas 6, magsisimula na silang magpapasok.
Worth it naman, para sa bayan naman. Sana kahit mainit and mahaba ang pila, I hope that it will not discourage ang sambayan ng Pilipino to exercise their right to vote.
Comelec Citizen Arm PPCRV Chairperson Myla Villanueva visited Pasig Elementary School earlier, and she said high voter turnout caused long lines, calling it a very emotional election. Outside the school, people still handing out campaign flyers despite the ban on campaigning on Election Day. One supporter reasoned out, others are doing it too. Meanwhile, here in Valle Verde, Mayor Vico Sotto arrived around 2:30 this afternoon and waited in line. He was able to vote 30 minutes later. In an interview, Sotto appeals for patience amid reports of vote counting machine malfunction.
Monitor din namin yung mga areas na may problema yung VCMs. Sinasabihan namin yung poll watchers para makasiguro na yung mga, di ba yung iba iniiwanan kasi yung balota at yung BI na yung magpapasok mamaya. So, kailangan bantayan din natin yun. Although, wala naman tayong ini-expect na kahit ano, pero syempre mas mabuti na po yung alisto tayong lahat.
A common machine problem, paper jam. At least 50 incidents have been recorded, and while they get resolved quickly, they still add to voter waiting time. Sotto also admits a number of buildings in Pasig still lack facilities for people with disabilities, but he hopes this will be addressed for the midterm election in 2025. Now, Pinky, just a few minutes ago, we were able to speak to Mayor Vico Sotto's father, the comedian and actor Vic Sotto, and he said he's already congratulating his son in advance for the changes that he has done in Pasig and that he's looking forward to his son's next 3-year term. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Amor Santos. Comelec Chairman Saidaman Pangarungan is speaking to the media. Let's listen in.
Ang number of violent incidents was 60. Ngayon, ang na-report lang is 15 incidents. So I would still consider this election as relatively peaceful compared to the elections in 2019.
Sir, sa PNP naman, particularly update lang dun sa encounter between armed men of mayoralty candidates sa General Tino Nueva Ecija. Baka may update po kayo.
General Tino Nueva Ecija daw po. General Nobleza, sir.
Sir, this incident happened last May 7. It was the shooting incident happened between the supporters of the mayoralty candidate in General Tino. And so far, sir, the PNP was able to confiscate plenty of numbers of firearms, such as M16 rifles, totaling to 5 M16 rifles, 11 caliber 45 pistols, 3 caliber 9mm pistols, 1 caliber 40 pistol, and 1 12-gauge shotgun. And when the PNP responded in the area of shooting, so sir, the PNP was able they were able to because there were wounded security personnel on the side of the mayoralty candidate Bute, and the suspects were arrested. So the PNP was able to arrest suspects, and the corresponding cases will be filed in court. And because of the recovery of the firearms and the crime scene, including the arrest of the suspects.
Sir, will you recommend na maisailalim sa areas of concern ng General Tino at yung turing po ng PNP sa ganun, since ang dami pong armed men, sila ba ay considered as private armed group ng local politicians?
So far, sir, this is not listed in our PNP, in the PNP list as private armed groups. But when we had a meeting this morning by the members of the Committee on the Ban on Firearms and Security Concerns, this place was not recommended under COMELEC control because everything is still under control by the PNP, the EFP, and other security forces. And we are not recommending that this place, General Tino, be under COMELEC control. Thank you.
And lastly, for the record lang po, General, kailan ba maikukonsider na private armed group ang security personnel ng politiko? Considering na ang dami po nung naaresto sa General Tino.
Of course, if we are talking of private armed groups, so these are group of persons that are confederating and helping each other for the advancement of one the political candidate. So in this case, we could say that this group are private armed groups because of the firearms and the number of suspects that were arrested by the PNP.
And last, anong liability nung mayoralty candidate na nagko-control dun sa armed group?
Sir, we will still investigate because the investigation is still ongoing. So we would just furnish the COMELEC with the complete investigation of this particular case.
Thank you po.
Thank you, Johnson. Martin Sadongdong of Manila Bulletin.
Hi, sirs. Good afternoon po. Sir, this question is addressed to Colonel Zagala and Brigadier General Nobleza, sirs. Earlier, sir, you mentioned sa AFP we have 15 violent incidents, and for the PNP we have 16 validated incidents. Can you just specify what type of incidents yung binabanggit natin? Are these shooting incidents, bomb attacks, etc.?
For the AFP, what was reported to us is 2 explosions, 2 shootings, 1 grenade throwing, 2 ambush, 2 armed clash between political rivals, indiscriminate firing isa, indiscriminate firing with ballot snatching isa, and strafing 3.
Sir, sorry, pasingit. Can you just specify din kung saang areas po ito? Thank you.
The strafing is in Buluan, Maguindanao. Explosion is in Barangay Poblacion, Kabacan, Cotabato. There's no casualty. Explosion in Barangay Daladagan in Magdadatu, Maguindanao. No casualty. Grenade throwing did not explode in Barangay Pag-asa in Kalamansig, Sultan Kudarat. The ambush is in Barangay Panapan in Magdadatu, Maguindanao. The armed clash is in Pandag, Maguindanao. Armed clash also is in Barangay Pagada in Maguindanao. Shooting in Malabang National High School in Malabang, Lanao del Sur. Shooting in Barangay Arsao in Malabang, Lanao del Sur. Ambush in Pandag, Maguindanao. The strafing in Barangay Lower Kabengbeng in Basilan. Strafing in Tong Umos Tupaan Island in Basilan Province. Ballot snatching in Basilan Province. Indiscriminate firing in Basilan Province. And another indiscriminate firing also in Basilan Province.
For the PNP, sir. Thank you. Can you just specify, sir, what areas and what type of incidents yung nabanggit natin kanina na 16 validated incidents po? Thank you, sir.
General Nobleza, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm talking about when the election period starts.
Yes.
So because we have all the data pertaining to the validated election-related incidents since the start of the election period. That was January 9 up to today. So based on our record, we have recorded a total of 4 validated incidents happened in Region 1, and Region 3, 5. Region 9 is 4. Region 10, 1. Cordillera is 2. But we still need to include all the incidents happened today.
So dun sa 16 incidents, sir, hindi pa kasama yung nangyari today,
Yes,
sir?
all these incidents happened, all the incidents happened today are not yet included in those incidents that I mentioned.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Celi Bueno, DWIC.
Sir, ngayong 1.5 hour na lang, magko-close na yung mga polling precinct. Mas crucial ba yung mga susunod na oras pagdating sa security? Kasi may mga report na may ilang mga lugar na medyo maiinit ho yung mga botante, lalo na yung mga hindi nga nila personally na ipasok yung kanilang mga balota dun sa mga nag-malfunction na mga VCM. Mas crucial po ba yung mga susunod na oras? And then mas i-intensify po ba yung security na ipatutupad?
Kanino po yung tanong, ma'am?
Siguro kay Chairman o kaya sa mga security
Security forces, gentlemen. Colonel Sagala.
Of course, right now, our concern is security. No? So we've already laid out more or less almost 70,000 troops to support COMELEC and the Philippine National Police in all these areas of concern. So our duty now is to ensure that we stabilize, de-escalate the areas where there is...
That's a media briefing with COMELEC and, of course, the AFP and the PNP. Some of the incidents mentioned today on the areas that had problems, we will be able to discuss that a little later on because we will have DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya with us. He can give us a rundown of what was discussed during that press briefing. We will have him a little later on in the program. And just a reminder, lahat po sa mga boboto, maaari pa rin ho kayong humabol. 5:29 na. You still have an hour and 30 minutes. You have until 7 p.m. to cast your votes. Of course, voting started at 6 a.m. naantala sa ilang mga lugar. And it will end at 7 p.m. Of course, huwag niyo pong kalimutan to wear a face mask and observe as much as possible safety protocols. Magdala ng kodigo ng inyong mga kandidato para po mas mapabilis ang inyong pagboto. And we will keep a close watch on the progress of today's vote and will bring you the results as we get them. This is CNN Philippines special coverage. The Filipino Votes Election Day 2022. I'm Pinky Webb, and I'll see you at 6 p.m. We'll be speaking to DILG Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya. He's joining us here in the studio. See you at 6 p.m. after Traffic Center.